etc. He started his career as a scientific officer at the Bhabha Atomic Research Center and superannuated as director and distinguished professor of Variable Energy Cyclotron Center, Calcutta. He is a fellow of all Indian academies. With these few words, I would like to humbly request Dr. Srivastava to please deliver his lecture on climate change and energy option. Dr. Srivastava, sir, please.
धन्यवाद वेंकटेश जी। सबसे पहले तो मैं दक्षिण बिहार केंद्रीय विश्वविद्यालय के अधिकारियों का बहुत धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगा कि उन्होंने हमें याद किया। मैं तो सोच रहा था कि कभी गया आऊँगा और आप लोगों का आतिथ्य स्वीकार करूँगा और गौतम बुद्ध की धरती को भी देख लूँगा, साथ में नालंदा भी देख लूँगा, लेकिन खैर वो होता रहेगा। चलिए हम लोग अपना लेक्चर शुरू करते हैं। I shall be talking about climate change and energy options. अगर आप पृथ्वी से बाहर जाएं, कहीं स्पेस में जाएं और अपने प्लेनेट को देखें, जिसको which we call our home and which is Earth, this is one of the most beautiful sights with its blue oceans, emerald seas, different continents, ice-capped poles, swirling clouds, snow-covered lofty mountains, mighty rivers, verdant forests, vast deserts and an accompanying moon. सब कुछ बहुत सुंदर है, but all this beauty is under serious threat because of climate change. चलिए हम लोग थोड़ा पीछे चलते हैं. Man, about million years ago, learned to make tools, simple tools using stone and maybe some metals. And at that time, when he was making only simple tools, the earth could support only a small population because they were only hunters and gatherers. About 10,000 years ago, man discovered agriculture. And agriculture started producing a lot more food. And the earth could support much larger population. And then around mid-1700 or so, the industrialization started. Industrialization increased the food production and production of all goods enormously. And now the earth can support much larger population which is now close to 7.5 billion or so. Okay. The Industrial Revolution started in England and it was supported by coal. You can see this pinkish part. It was supported by coal and the coal production started. Coal utilization increased considerably by 1800 or so. You can see this is the utilization of coal in England and this little is the utilization in Italy. And it was this coal utilization which triggered the Industrial Revolution of England. If we look at the world energy consumption in terms of millions of tons of oil equivalent from 1950 to 2000, you see that most of it is from oil and biofuels. Then you have natural gas, then you have coal. So that is about 70 to 80% of the energy which we are using is from fossil fuels. These we call fossil fuels as we will, because they are produced from fossils. A very small percentage of it comes from nuclear, then some from hydro, and a very little from renewable energy sources. Okay, this is the situation. Now And we hope that this situation changes, otherwise we are in serious trouble. Here are the warning signs of climate change. The ice in Antarctica is melting and destroying the habitat of penguins, which are dying in large numbers. It is also likely that it may trigger explosive release of methane hydrate and lots of viruses which are buried under the ice for millions of years. Today, we are struggling with corona, but we don't know how many corona-like viruses are buried under ice for millions of years, which may be released because of the global warming. The ice in Arctic region is melting, and it has melted so much that it has destroyed the habitat and feeding grounds of polar bears, which are dying in large numbers. Glaciers all over the world are retreating, or they are just dying. On the left top corner, you have this White Chuck Glacier near Washington State in 1973. You can see it is full of snow. And this is below there, there is the same glacier around same time in 2006 with almost no snow. And now it is dead. The upper photograph here is a glacier in Himalayas, a picture taken in 1960 from a satellite. And the lower picture is in 2000. And by now it is almost dead. The sea levels are rising. Sea levels are continuously rising from the time of industrialization at the rate of about 3.3 millimeter per year. 3.3 millimeter may not sound much, but year by year, it becomes, over decades, it becomes considerable. If all the ice on Greenland melts, sea level will rise by about 20 meters. If all the ice of Antarctica melts, the sea level will rise by 60 meters. And if the sea level rises by 60 meters, all coastal areas like Bombay or Chennai or New York or San Francisco or Florida and countries like Maldives, they will all go underwater. You see, when the temperatures rise, it also leads to more evaporation. And because of more evaporation, you have either excessive rains or snow at some places, or prolonged, very long, prolonged droughts elsewhere. Bihar is not, Bihar knows floods year after year. And every year the floods are more severe, as you know. Rising temperatures की वजह से क्या होता है कि जितने जंगल हैं उनके पेड़ सूखने लगते हैं, and that leads to fires. अभी कुछ ही समय पहले ऑस्ट्रेलिया में आग लगी थी, where millions of acres of forest was burnt and billions of animals were killed. Fortunately, the number of people who died was very small because most of Australia is very little populated. And because of warming, it leads to surge storms. So suddenly, बहुत तेजी से तूफान आते हैं, and more frequent and fierce cyclones. You just heard about Amphan cyclone in Bengal and Odisha, and also some cyclone in Bombay. In Bay of Bengal, cyclones are frequent, but it was very rare for cyclones to be seen in the Arabian Sea. But in recent years, we are having cyclones in the Arabian Sea also. जब टेम्परेचर बढ़ता है तो it leads to more absorption of carbon dioxide by oceans. And when the oceans absorb more carbon dioxide, they become acidic. और उसकी वजह से the entire ecosystem of coral reefs dies. You see, this is a coral reef with so many varieties of fish, and these are all part of food chain. And if all these die, then this is how it looks like. These are called bleached coral reefs, and this is happening all over the world. Sorry, excuse me, went too fast. So there are 10 indicators of warming world. The air temperature near surface is rising. The humidity is rising. The temperature over oceans is rising. Sea temperature is rising. Sea level is rising. The heat content of ocean is rising. The temperature over land is rising. Glaciers are going down. The snow cover is going down. And the sea ice is going down. Sorry. Okay. Now you know that the upper house, upper atmosphere of our atmosphere, it reflects 30% of the sunlight back into the space. The rest is absorbed by the earth and it is radiated as infrared. Greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, water, methane, and nitrous oxides, they absorb it and reflect it back to earth, which warms it. Now, greenhouse gases are not all bad. If there are no greenhouse gases, the average temperature on Earth would be minus 15 degrees centigrade. सुनाई पड़ रहा है भाई? हेलो वेंकटेश?
हाँ सर, हाँ perfect है सर, perfect.
Okay. But there are no greenhouse gases. The average temperature on Earth would be minus 18 degrees centigrade. And then life on Earth would not have been possible. Okay. Now what we can do is that we can drill ice, like you see on the left, in the Antarctica region. And you can see bubbles. Those are air bubbles trapped in that ice. You can analyze, you can do mass analysis, and then you can find out the content of carbon dioxide, and you can also find out the temperature at that time by looking at the ratio of oxygen 18 and oxygen 16. And you can see here on the right, red curves are the carbon dioxide and bluish curve of the temperature. And there is very perfect coordination. There is very perfect correlation between temperature and carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has gone up, the temperature has gone up. When the carbon dioxide has gone down, the temperature has gone down. What is important is that in the entire period of 800,000 years, that means 8 lakh सालों में, before industrialization, the level of carbon dioxide was never more than 300 ppm. And today it is close to 410 ppm, which is very high. Incidentally, way back in 1896, Arrhenius had suggested that increased carbon dioxide may lead to global warming. और उस समय पूरे यूरोप में एक शीत लहर चल रही थी. लोगों ने सोचा अरे भाई ये तो बड़ा अच्छा है. This that was called mini ices. People had actually welcomed it, but now we know better. Okay, here is the temperature from 1800 to about 2020 and correlation with the rise in carbon dioxide. And you can see that as the level of carbon dioxide is increasing, the temperature is increasing too. So there is no doubt that the global rise in temperature is directly related to the concentration of carbon dioxide in the air. And along by this climate change, there was an intergovernmental panel on climate change. And they studied these things. This was a collection of scientists from across the world. They studied these things and submitted their reports in 1990, 1995, 2001, 2007, and 2014. The next report is expected in 2022. And these are their recommendations. The last one is that please remember that climate change is occurring in spite of what Donald Trump may say. It is caused by large-scale human activities, and it poses significant risk for, and in many cases, is already affecting a broad range of human and natural systems. The most important recommendation that IPCC makes is to make every possible effort to limit the increase in global temperatures to less than 1.5 or at most 2 degrees Celsius of those of pre-industrial limits by every possible means. और उसके लिए करना क्या होगा? Carbon dioxide emission has reduced by 40% of 2010 and by 2030 and to zero by 2050. But now we have another problem. We know that life expectancy is directly related with the increase in gross domestic product or GDP. And GDP increases with the availability of power. In this slide, we have shown the annual electricity consumption in kilowatt hours per person per year, literally, versus Human Development Index. Human Development Index is a metric which is a measure of health, education, and prosperity. And if it is about 0.8 or more, then people are having a healthy life. They are very well educated. And India's value is very low. The developed nations have very high value. About 500 million people in China have a very high Human Development Index, as close to as the rest of as the developed world. But what is important is that for having a Human Development Index of about 0.8, you need electricity usage of about 4,000 kilowatt hours per person per year. India's consumption is about around 1,200 kilowatt hours per person per year. This number has to increase by a factor of 3 or 4 so that we can have enough prosperity. And if all this power has to come from coal, then you can imagine the situation of the world. It's going to be very bad. Okay. This is the annual carbon dioxide emission in 2017. You can see that these regions of China and America or North America or Europe, they are very high emitters. India is also a very high emitter on a whole, but if you divide it by the population, in the next slide, then you can see that India is not emitting much. But India, if we are going all the electricity we need from coal, then this number will become very large, okay? These are the sources of greenhouse gases. Carbon dioxide is about 65% from fossil fuel and about 11% from industry, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorine, etc. Okay. Let us see what are the options for energy. In the beginning, In the beginning, man did not have any access to any other power other than animals. Man by himself can produce up to 70 watts of power for about 7-8 hours. A donkey can produce about 160, and a horse can produce about 700 watts of power. And you can make it work for 7-8 hours. So you can see that a horse can do 10 times as much work as a man. So once man domesticated animals, he had access to more power and more energy and could increase the production. Man had another way of having more power. Millions of people have been enslaved following wars in historical times. Up to 22 million Africans were taken as slaves. About half of them most probably died on the way and were just thrown overboard. About 3.5 million, that is 35 lakh Indians, were taken as indentured laborers from Bihar, eastern UP, mostly as indentured labor to Africa, Fiji, Mauritius, Caribbean. आज हम लोग बड़े घमंड से कहते हैं in all these countries, Bhojpuri is spoken, but please understand that Indians were taken there essentially as slaves. Then, what saved us from slavery? Mechanized agriculture saved us from slavery. Let us see what are the sources of energy. There are two types of sources. One which are non-renewable, which means that once you use them, they are no longer there, like coal, oil, gas, or nuclear. Nuclear इसको हमने यहाँ ऐसे रखा है कि even though nuclear energy density is very high and nuclear fuel available with us is enough to last us several thousand years, but once you use it, it is gone. Then there are renewable energy sources like biomass, biofuel, wind, tidal energy, hydroelectricity, geothermal, and solar. The ones which are ticked here are the ones I will discuss. The rest I can take in questions. Let us talk about coal. In coal mining, coal has to be mined, and more than 15,000 miners are killed every year. Several thousand are injured every year. Large areas are polluted. There is a serious health hazard, as we all know. This is coal mine was in Dhanbad. It used to be wonderful forest. When the coal is taken by coal trains, it distributes coal dust all around and destroys the fields. By the way, coal was initially used in England only by the poor because wood became unavailable due to clearing of forests. Now, use of coal leads to global warming, as they are telling again and again. Just imagine a 1300 megawatt thermal power station. It will use 4.5 million tons of coal per year and produce 14.5 million tons of carbon dioxide by weight and 1.5 billion tons of ash and all kinds of other pollutants, including 6.5 tons of uranium, which will be released. You can see how much pollution does it make. You can wash the coal by crushing it, sorting it, and washing it. That can reduce ash. You can put electrostatic filters, which can remove gases like sulfur dioxide. There have been talks that carbon dioxide can be captured and fixed in deep mines, but there has been no successful industrial application so far. Research is going on. But doing any of these things can increase the cost by 25 to 100% or more, and the carbon dioxide may actually leak. The World Health Organization estimates that 8 million premature deaths per year take place due to problems caused by use of fossil fuels and biomass. Then you have oil and gas. You know that there is a fire going on in Assam. Well, oil well is on fire. That causes acid rains. Oil, when it is being transported, can also have spills. And when oil spill takes place, this is what happens to the birds. When there is acid rains, then this is what happens to your marble statues. Imagine acid rain on Taj Mahal. It will be completely destroyed. There is a new way of getting oil and gas these days. It is called fracking, or it is from shale oil or shale gas. They do a horizontal drilling here. They do go deep, and then they do a horizontal drilling. And through this, they put some liquid under a great force, because of which these rocks are cracked and the oil and gas which is trapped in there is released. And this has become great source of oil and gas in Canada and America. But it is leading to contamination of water. This is destruction of environment. This used to be a vast forest, and this is what has happened now. And when these things are going on, there are lots of, you can have 150 to 160 earthquakes in a day, a small intensity earthquakes in a day, and even land subsidence. Okay, let's come to renewable energy. Simplest is biomass. आप देखते हैं इससे चारों तरफ, and for centuries people have been using it. But if you want to use it for production of electricity, you need to compact it and transport it. Collection of biomass is very labor intensive. Yeah. And then people say that, oh, it is renewable because carbon dioxide से पेड़ पौधे बने थे, and then you have just burned the पेड़ पौधा and carbon dioxide had come out. But we forget that this carbon dioxide was absorbed over 1 year or 100 years, and you are releasing it very quickly. At least in Europe, in America, Europe, and Brazil, many food grains and like cane sugar is being converted into ethanol to be used as fuel. But when a large population of the world is dying of hunger, the importance of this, the logic for this is not very clear. You have seen this. This is the biodiesel, but in spite of all these things, number of countries are continuing to produce biodiesel. But fortunately, so far the contribution of this is rather small to the world energy source. This is a very important figure because it shows you how much carbon dioxide it produces per kilowatt hour. So wood, if you are going to produce electricity, wood will produce about 400 kilograms of, about 400 grams of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour. Whereas natural gas will produce 0.2, coal will produce something like 0.34 kilograms of carbon dioxide. All these are producing carbon dioxide. कोई थोड़ा कम, कोई थोड़ा ज़्यादा. Okay. Wind energy, you must have heard of it. Wind energy is one of the cleanest sources of energy with no greenhouse gas emission, except at the time of their manufacture and installation. It is renewable because wind to chalti rahegi. It does not need any fuel and only occasional maintenance, with a life of about 70 to 80 years. They essentially do not occupy any space because windmill काफी rotors जो है काफी height होते हैं, 50 मीटर या उससे भी ज्यादा height पे नीचे आप खेती कर सकते हैं. This is 560 megawatt Tudahalli wind park in Karnataka. लेकिन हवा चलेगी तो बिजली आएगी, हवा बंद बिजली बंद. There have been instances that it is very noisy. People have complained that this can be very noisy. और लोग उसके आसपास रहना नहीं चाहते हैं. It is also killing birds. This is the evolution of global wind energy installed capacity in megawatts, and it's continuously increasing. and by now it is about 600 megawatts of thing. Okay. But it is going up and up and up. Okay. Then there is hydroelectric power. These are some of the main dams in India. Tehri Dam, Koyana Dam, Srisailam, Naptha, Sarwar Dam, etc. Let us remember that 40 to 80 million people have been displaced worldwide since 2000 because of dams. It destroys wildlife and ecosystem. It can cause flood. In order to save the dams, you release water, as it happened in Kerala. Or the dams can fail, as it happened in China. It can also control floods. Because they collect water from the rivers, there is always silting of the dams. Then there is also evaporation loss that people forget, that you lose from 5,000 to 70,000 liters per megawatt hour of water to evaporation. And from a dam, when water evaporates, the remaining water becomes more saline. So year after year, the salinity of the dam goes up, which will be bad, and we are going to use it for irrigation. The dams are always made between valleys, which are always full of trees, and these trees cannot be cleared. So what happens is that all this vegetation gets inundated in water, and then it slowly starts rotting, because of which methane is produced, which is released in the air, atmosphere, which is the greenhouse gas. Also, because those are rotting, niche, marine life cannot survive. Then the dams disrupt the flow of rivers. Many fish, they cannot go up or down. They used to move up and down the rivers, and they cannot move. Many fish like Hilsa or Salmon, they go up a river for fawning and then go back to the sea. And that becomes difficult for them. There is another interesting development which is called aquavoltaics. In Narmada Canal network in Gujarat passes through some very dry areas. They have covered those areas, canals, with solar panels. उससे solar panels ठंडे रहते हैं, because of which they are efficient. It evaporates water, stops evaporation of water, stops algae formation, and it does not require any extra space. और solar panels को जब आप धोएंगे तो पानी नीचे का नीचे रह जाए. And because of this, now people have also started planning, and including in India, some floating solar power stations are being done. Okay, so this is you are using the same space for two sources of electricity. Then let us come to solar power. The sun, the solar energy is like that, distributed on top of the sunlight. The yellow curve is shown, but the sunlight passes through the atmosphere, and then the carbon dioxide and water absorbs part of it, and the red graph is that. And at the equator, at 12 noon, this is the amount of power you get, about 1,000 watts per square meter, but it's distributed over a large area of wavelength. Okay. If you look at the distribution of solar radiation across the world on an average, taking account of this, then you can see that across the world, this region around the equator is rather rich, and about 350 watts per square meter. और आप देख रहे हैं यहाँ पे black dots बनाए हैं. If you cover that area with solar panels, it will produce enough energy to meet the energy requirement of the entire world. Okay, If you can just cover those areas with solar panels. और एक और खास बात है, अरे जब हिंदुस्तान में दिन है तो अमेरिका में रात है, जब अमेरिका में रात है तो हिंदुस्तान में दिन है, ऑस्ट्रेलिया में दिन है. So you can think of a very interesting concept called one sun, one world, one grid, for which DST has now started study. The working of solar cell, I will not go in detail. I will distribute these slides to you, and then you can have a look. But one has to understand that the efficiency of solar cell cannot be more than 25%, 35% because of Shockley-Kishler limit, because part of the sunlight goes through, some of it is absorbed, and some of it is reflected, etc., etc. And only part of the sunlight is useful for producing electrons, because if the wavelength is too small, it will not produce, and if the wavelength is too large, then electron will produce with high energy and will only heat the system. Variety of other solar cells are under construction, but so far large-scale construction is only pure silicon crystal or polycrystal of silicon. What is important to realize is that the silicon photovoltaic cells have continuously gone down in price from $76 per cell to less than $0.3 per cell now. And it is continuously decreasing. And because of this, solar panels are being deployed in a large way. This is one of the biggest solar parks in the world. Pavagada Solar Park will produce about 2,050 megawatts in Karnataka, and it is already fully commissioned. The solar power installed capacities are going to rise. By 2050, we are going to have a very large amount of solar panels all over the world. Okay? But let us understand, solar power is intermittent. If there is shade on your solar panel, electricity production will go down. If there are clouds, cloudy day, there will be less production. When solar eclipse will cause less production. If there is dust on your solar panel, the production will reduce. You need large area. You need about 5 acres for 1 megawatt of power. And what is not realized is that the efficiency of solar panels goes down by 1% every year. And very soon, we are going to have millions of tons of solar panel with e-waste, which have lot of toxic materials like antimony, cadmium, etc., etc. Lot of plastic, rubber. What are you going to do with it? Solar panels, in order to solve these two problems of intermittency, people have thought of storage. You can have very large batteries. This is a 130 megawatt hour battery installed in Australia. Or you can have a very interesting concept called pumped up storage. You have two tanks, one at a bigger height and the other at a lower height. And when you have extra electricity, you just fill up the reservoir at a greater height, or जब electricity का demand ज़्यादा हो, then you can produce additional electricity by running the hydroelectric power plant. So this is becoming very popular because एक बार बना दिया तो 70-80 साल तक चलता रहता है. There is no maintenance, nothing is needed. All of you have mobile phones, laptops. You're talking to me through that. They all use cobalt. 80% of cobalt in the world comes from Democratic Republic of Congo, where children as young as 4 years are made to work in mines. Remember that. You can have cultivation of mushrooms under solar panels. You can have it's called photovoltaics. सब्जियां उगा सकते हैं, turmeric, ginger, coriander, betel leaves, and you can put windmills along with solar panels. ऊपर हवा से बिजली पैदा हो रही है, नीचे नीचे सनलाइट से बिजली पैदा हो रही है. And one such project is coming up in India, in South. Then you can have concentrated solar power plants where you concentrate the power using a reflector. You can also heat this, you heat some oil and accumulate. You can have lots of mirrors, accumulate the power on one particular point and heat it and produce electricity. This is one such solar power facility in America. This is one such Fresnel reflector concentrating solar power plant in Rajasthan, which has already started working, and many such are coming up. Then I come to nuclear power. You know that about 0.7% of uranium-235 is the only naturally found isotope which undergoes fission with thermal neutrons. And it produces 2 to 3 neutrons which have a little higher energy. So what you do is you can slow them down and then they can cause further fission and chain reaction can proceed. So you can either enrich and use light water as reactor, as moderator, or you can enrich. Do not enrich uranium and use heavy water as moderator because only 0.7%
Use silicon oxide, zinc oxide lattice, and finally to make zinc silicate as a fluorescent material. And our patent is already granted here. And the advantage is that here the decay time of this photoluminescence is 1.4 milliseconds. It is good for various biomass.
Hello, आप हमसे कुछ कह रहे हैं क्या?
Use this material with the drug and then
Hello.
आप हमसे कुछ कह रहे हैं क्या?
patent a process for the synthesis.
वेंकटेश,
नहीं सर, हम नहीं कर रहे हैं, पूछ रहे हैं कौन है ये बीच में. उदयन जी.
okay.
Sir,
There is a
start.
3-stage power program of India. In first stage, they would use natural uranium and produce plutonium-239, which can be used in fast breeder reactors and produce plutonium-239 and also uranium-233. And third stage, this is the program which India is following. This is the number of nuclear reactors in various countries. More than 410 nuclear reactors are operating. These are very quickly I will go through because of shortage of time. These are a variety of reactors. You have light water reactor, heavy water reactor, or fast breeder reactor. Then you have nuclear waste. That is a problem, but nuclear waste is actually not a problem because when uranium-235 is used, uranium-238 gives rise to plutonium, uranium-236, neptunium, americium, curium, and all. And these are all actually, these have very long lifetime. So there are two methods have been used to deal with nuclear waste. One is mine and enrichment. You use it in reactor, and nuclear waste is just kept for a long-term storage. But in India and many other countries, what we do is that take out the spent fuel from the nuclear waste, and then the remaining part is only fission products, and that can be left for a very short-term storage. Another thing here is that the material which you need for putting up these plants. Here is a mass of material in tons per terawatt hour. You can see how much more material solar photovoltaics need compared to nuclear or geothermal or wind or hydro. Yeah. So these things are people don't remember all the time. So this is just to remind you that, okay? Then there have been some accidents. There was a 3-mile island using, but there was a valve was open, but display told that it was closed. It led to loss of coolants. Even though there was core melting, there was no injury to anyone. Chernobyl was a design fault. It had a positive void coefficient. It had faulty control rods, and the operators were not very well trained. And most importantly, it did not have a containment building. Though there was no off-site death due to radiation, except for 30 who died on-site because of fire, actually. Fukushima accident is very recent in our mind. These fellows were warned repeatedly that the height of tsunami could be 14, 15 meters, and they were repeatedly told to raise the diesel generator height. लेकिन पैसा बचाने के लिए उन्होंने किया नहीं. But so far there has not been any death due to radiation, even though the core melted and there was a hydrogen explosion. Okay. Material throughput we have already seen. This is the comparison of mortality rate. So the mortality rate, the nuclear energy sources per terawatt, per trillion kilowatt hour is the lowest of all the power sources. Okay. There's a new designs and reactors are coming up. One is molten salt reactor, where you have uranium and thorium salts, which are in molten stage and which are continuously refueled, and this becomes very valuable. And this is very inherently safe, and there is no nuclear waste. Then there is a new concept called accelerator-driven subcritical system by Carlo Rubbia, where you have a 2 GeV proton beam, which hits a heavy target, produces lots of neutrons, which can be used for fission. Work is going on everywhere, including in India. And there's one such design called MIR in Belgium. Okay. There's also concept of DT fusion, which has been pursued for quite some time. And now there is a very interesting work going on called the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, ITER, in which India is also a 10% contributor. 7 nations have, I think 7 nations together are contributing. India is contributing about 10%, which is about 70,000 crores or so, which will have DT fusion. They will put in 50 megawatts of power and get 500 megawatts of power. There are some indirect ways of fusion, which are all in experimental stage. And either you can have a lot of concentration of X-rays on a DT pellet, or you can have many lasers hitting a DT fuel at the same time. And work is going on. No fusion has been seen here. Okay. So let me come to the end. The end is that the entire world is struggling with the challenge of ensuring that industries and people have affordable and reliable electricity while limiting greenhouse gas emissions that will increase the climate change. Despite the hysteria around nuclear power, the facts show that nuclear energy is one of the safest and cheapest low-emission forms of energy. One thing which people forget all the time is that if you have a nuclear power plant, 93% of the time it will continuously produce power day in and day out. Garmi ho, barsat ho, aandhi ho, tufan ho, it will continue to work. Natural gas reactors, natural gas thermal power plants have a capacity of about 58%, coal 54%, hydropower 43%, and solar PV have a capacity utilization factor of about 25%, which means अगर आप 1000 मेगावाट का सोलर पावर प्लांट लगाएंगे तो उसमें से आपको 250 मेगावाट मिलने की गारंटी है. Okay, nuclear energy generation produces zero emissions, no carbon dioxide, making it a clear alternative to traditional forms of renewable energy like solar and wind. However, unlike renewable energy sources, nuclear power is generated even when the sun does not shine or the wind does not blow. Molten salt reactors and modular reactors are likely to revolutionize the nuclear power scenes. And newer construction techniques are coming up which can reduce the cost of nuclear power constructions. Okay. Nuclear power has been very successful because there has been continuous improvement and very clear, sophisticated studies of its research in nuclear safety, which is continuously going on. Okay. So I don't want to scare you, But this is a very interesting picture, which I saw just the other day, and I thought I'll show it to you. This is where the Earth was, and this is where the Earth is now. If we don't take action, we will reach here, where the Earth's temperature will fall, will become extremely hot, and life will become next to impossible. And if we take action now, we can come back to a very stable Earth. Okay. If we don't stabilize the climate, we will fall into an irreversible hothouse Earth scenario. Okay. So let me talk. And here, I'm not giving you any suggestion. You are all young, and we are depending on you to guide governments and put pressure on governments to take action on climate change, because it is your future. And you, the purpose of all this is to tell you what are the options available and what are the good things and bad things about it. Okay, this talk is based on a book, Climate Change and Energy Options for Sustainable Future, which I'm writing along with Professor Ramamurthy, V.S. Ramamurthy. It will be published shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Okay,
you so much for delivering very nice lecture. So I would like to request Budhendra ji, if you have any question from the participant, please ask.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, there is only one question. The question is from Abhijit Kumar from our university, physics department. He has asked that biogas is better option rather than solar energy because biogas is 100% eco-friendly. But solar material need to be dumped after some year. Even though biogas has totally failed in our country, India, why? He's asking for any
Well, there are
comment.
several issues. One is that what is the amount of biogas available? The amount which, if we can start, it is a very good option. I fully agree with him. If we can develop it, but you have to treat a lot of waste, and our cities produce a lot of waste which should be recycled and it should be converted into biogas. But there are not many systems, and it should be explored. What I am trying to tell is that we should explore all options. We are a poor country. A large part of our population is hungry, very poor. We have to pull them out of that poverty. And any energy coming from any source is welcome. It should be as green as possible. So biofuel, biomass, biogas is a very valuable option. Lekin it does not produce as much energy as you need for running a factory. Rooted sources, remote villages, isolated factories can be a very good option. But only if you build a plant near a big city where you can treat a huge amount of municipal waste to produce gas, then it can be very valuable. Yes, it should be pursued. That's the reason हमने कहा ना कि हम चाहते हैं कि आप ये सारे ऑप्शंस लोगों में जागरूकता फैलाएं. आप सब हमारे इन्वेस्टर बने. Yeah.
Sir, there is one more question. Professor Brajesh Chaudhary would like to ask you. Sir, can you unmute yourself and ask the question? Brajesh, sir?
Yes. So thank you, Dr. Srivastava, for a very illuminating talk.
Arre
Really
baap
appreciate
re. My God, I'm blessed.
So I have a question. Now, I am just looking at one day on my Facebook post when we were going to switch off the power for some minute, I has written a very detailed note regarding India's various energy capacity and all the other things. Talking to one of my cousins, who is a very senior executive.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now coming to the question, If I remember that when I joined IOP as a young faculty in 1997, at that time we were saying that by 2010 we will have 20,000 megawatt power. I just Googled it. Today I see that the nuclear power is only close to 7,000 megawatt. And the India's total capacity installed is 370,000 megawatt. So in such a scenario where nuclear power only contributes 2%, even if your suggestion is taken, to go from 2 to 5% or 10% will be a huge number. It will take several decades. So I'm not questioning your assertion that we should also think about more nuclear power plant, but nuclear power plant could be put in India. We do not yet have the ADS technology, which you little bit alluded, okay, like converting thorium to usable things. So how we are going to do it, that is the thing. Why we should do it is understood. How we are going to do it.
This is a very important question. And it is like this, that nuclear power plant needs initial investment, which is rather high. And government after government had disregarded it. Another problem is that because of the nuclear weapon considerations, India was kept out of the availability of uranium. At that time, sources of uranium in India were not many. Now we have found out many more sources, but there was a time when even our existing plants were running at 30 to 40% capacity because they were not getting fuel. Now that because of the Indo-US nuclear deal, India is able to import uranium, then you can set up plants very quickly. Third thing is that people almost always say that nuclear power plants take very long time to establish. But Nuclear Power Corporation of India now has the 700 megawatt thermal power megawatt plants, which they can build in 5 to 6 years. So it can be set up very quickly and very efficiently. And these are going to be our work hard. So one other thing is that we don't say, of course, the entire energy in the world is coming from nuclear, there is no doubt. That would be the most ideal condition. That is not going to happen. But what is going to happen is that because the solar power or wind power is going to be very intermittent, so you will need what is known as base load. Okay? And for that base load across the world has to come from nuclear. This is understood by everybody. This is accepted by everybody. That base load of thought. Now people are slowly coming to realization that across the world, the base load should perhaps come by from about 20% of electricity, nuclear power, and the rest may come from renewables like wind and solar. Yes, it will take time, but it has to happen. We cannot give up. Just as money is not available right, it will be available. I'm very hopeful of that. Thank you for this question.
I have one more question, sir.
Sure.
So now we have nuclear waste, and we know that in US the nuclear waste is put very deep into Utah and other desert, where they are safe for very long time, thousands of years, but the half-life is very large, some of these wastes. So how we are going to make sure that over a very long period of time, and I'm not talking about 100 years of time, that these nuclear waste would be safe in India, where the human density is very large. We have very big desert in Rajasthan, but other than that, we do not have any area, except for some very small ones, where human habitation is not there.
Okay, that's a very important question. And I'm sorry that I did not spend more time on explaining the nuclear waste. The philosophy of nuclear waste in India is that it is not waste at all. The long lifetime isotopes in the nuclear waste are americium, curium, or what we call minor actinides, and uranium, plutonium. All these are fuel. India treats the waste, takes out these fuels, and uses it back in nuclear reactors. The remaining waste is only fission products, which have a lifetime of 20 to 100 years or 200 years. So India solves its nuclear waste problem that way. Americans did not go to clearing nuclear, solving this problem of nuclear waste this way, because they were afraid that plutonium can fall in the hands of unwanted non-state players. And if plutonium is in the waste, then it is very safe. So America has its own old philosophy, but now they are very aware of it. India will not face this problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. There is one more question from Tamoga Gangu. The question is, what is the long-term future of synthetic fuel? Can we have petrol-like good fuel artificially?
Which one?
What is
Artificial.
the synthetic fuel?
देखिए साहब, आप कुछ भी करिए, as long as your fuel has carbon, it will produce carbon dioxide. Okay, synthetic fuel is fine. People have tried to make synthetic fuel using plastic. Very good, do it. But ultimately, you are going to release carbon dioxide. हम सिर्फ ये कहना चाहते हैं, कुछ भी करिए, या तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड निकलने मत दीजिए आप. Let it not come out. As long as you are going to release carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, you are creating a problem for yourself. But synthetic fuel is fine, but you also have to see, अभी तक जितने synthetic fuel बने हैं, they use more energy than they produce. Economics में क्या है, ये भी देखना पड़ेगा.
Okay. Thank you, sir. One more guy, Raghunath Sahu, would like to ask the question.
Raghunath Sahu, oh my God.
Yeah. Can you please unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yeah. So good morning. Can you?
I'm blessed.
Am I audible?
Sir, how are you?
I'm fine, sir.
बोलिए.
Yeah, I have a different kind of question. Maybe that can.
You see,
to...
by calling you there, Venkatesh has escaped giving lunch to all of us. It would have been such a wonderful lunch if we made. Yeah, बोलिए.
I talked to him yesterday evening. So anyway, so my question is the following. In my postdoctoral studies in INF and Padova, I had a tea time discussion. So Italy has a long coastal belt. Okay. So my question was, why Italy is not going for wind power? Instead, Italy is buying nuclear power generated, electricity from France. So then I was told by a couple of Italian colleagues that, if they develop the technology of wind power, so that will be costlier compared to buying nuclear power from France. So that was a bit convincing for me, it has to be economically viable. So now coming back to India, so far my limited knowledge of nuclear power in India is concerned. So we are still dependent technology-wise possibly on Russia. I may be wrong, like
No.
or
No.
No. Okay.
No.
So, okay.
Not at all. You see, let me make it very clear. What was the purpose of nuclear deal? Because of nuclear deal, we can buy uranium, we can buy nuclear technology.
Yeah.
But What was important is that Americans, Russians, and the French, they could sell their reactors. So it is only to have access to nuclear technology that they are also buying their reactors.
Okay.
But we have our own reactor program using our own technology, which we can continue as long as uranium is available. So nuclear deal की एक ये था कि भाई आपको चाहिए ना हमारे रिएक्टर तो खरीदो. That is what was happened. That happened.
Okay. And going beyond, in this line, if I
Coming back to this question of Italy,
yeah.
you see, Italy is very lucky in the sense that they are part of European Union. Nobody, they are not going to fight a war now. India is a very isolated country. We have to be Atmanirbhar as much as possible. We have to depend on ourselves. We should not depend on anybody, because if you are going to depend on anybody, they can always, almost always, use it as an advantage to exploit you, to put pressure on you. And therefore, we should be dependent on ourselves in every possible way. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, if I take from your words that we are technology-wise independent, nuclear power technology. So then, our country's vision of looking at East and becoming at least a economic superpower within Asia, we should sell out nuclear technology to countries like Vietnam, Philippines. But my small visit to Vietnam, so I realized their atomic energy commission is called Vinatam, and they have nuclear power plants. The technology is bought from Russia, and they have named it at Rosatom, Russian atomic, Rosatom. So I was thinking, at least, we should be in a position to be independent and sell out this technology to small Asian countries, so that our technology also contributes to our economy. So that is what is not happening. So it was a bit surprising to me that so instead of buying from India, so they also buy from Russia. So when this scenario is going to change?
Well, देखिए दो तीन चीजें हैं. When they may have some compulsions for buying from Russia. We don't know that. Secondly, India has been helping Vietnam, Bangladesh, and many other countries. At one time, a large number of their nuclear scientists and reactor physicists and all, they used to come to Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Bombay, under IAEA to get training, to get trained on our reactors.
Yes, I know that, sir. Yes.
But then it all stopped in 1974. It will start all over again. You must know that the reactor which Bangladesh is installing in Rupur is a Russian reactor. But many of those components have gone from India. And all the operators and the scientists of Bangladesh are being trained at Kudankulam. So these things will open up. Don't you worry, it will happen. It will happen.
Okay, sir, we have a very limited time.
Hello. Sir, there is one, the last question. Actually, this is being telecast on several platforms like YouTube, Facebook Live and all. So many people did not get chance to come to this Google Meet. So there is one question on streaming in the YouTube from Mahendra Kumar. He is writing, is it safe to promote the use of nuclear energy through nuclear power plant? Is there any boundary decided by the safe number of nuclear plants that we can have in our country, maybe?
There is a very, well, that's a very important question. And there is a very, very detailed study by IAEA which tells how many nuclear power plants can be put in a given area. Okay, because for every nuclear power plant there is some kind of exclusion zone, etc., etc. Have to follow. If you follow that, then
Hello,
it's fine.
Budhenji.
No problem.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, finish, sir. You can proceed now. Yeah. Venkatesh, sir.
Hello.
Hello, Venkatesh, sir.
Yeah, okay. Now I can hear you.
Yeah.
Again gone.
You can proceed, sir. You can give the concluding remarks.
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Budhenji. Thank you for collecting good number of questions and referring to the speaker. If a large number of questions are waited, so we can compile all the questions and send to you by email, and we expect getting
Sure.
answer, and then we will forward the whole answer to the related persons. So we heard a very clear-cut, transparent message from your lecture. It's crystal clear that climate change is a real threat, and we should avoid or we should reduce our non-climate supporting activities. Sir, we are very thankful to you and for sharing your time and knowledge with us. And we also thanks our participant for participating in this lecture series. And we thanks to our team behind this event, such as I can take few names: Dr. Budhendra Kumar Singh, Puneet Misra, Rohit Ranjan Sahi, Lakhvinder Singh, Vijay Raj Singh, and Nitin Chandraji. These persons are helping us in organizing these events successfully. So I would like to thanks at the end all of you. Thank you so much for connecting and listening, Dr. Dinesh Kumar Srivastava. Thank you, sir. Thank you for connecting.
Thank you, bhai. And stay safe and stay well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Bye. Goodbye.